A notorious fugitive once featured on America's Most Wanted is back in custody. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement announced the arrest of Minh Duong Nguyen, also known as Tony Playboy.
America, Tony Playboy is not a movie character. He is a real person. His real name is Minh Duong Nguyen. He's 54 years old, and right now he's sitting in ICE custody at the Houston Contract Detention Facility. Most news outlets, if they covered it this week, described this as a fugitive who was on the run for 35 to 37 years. Tony Playboy was not hiding out for 35 years. He was in prison for 35 years. He was convicted for murder in May 1990 and sentenced to 45 years in Texas state prison system. He wasn't running. He was locked up. The real story, you guys, is what happened while he was in there, because in 1991, the same year his appeal was denied, immigration officials opened deportation proceedings, and by 1998, the Board of Immigration Appeals had officially finalized his removal orders. That means since Bill Clinton's second term, there has been an official government document saying that Tony Playboy, when he's finished with this sentence, he goes back to Vietnam. On April 16, 2026, the sentence ended. ICE Houston was at the prison door. The 28-year-old removal order was in their hand. And Tony Playboy had nowhere else to go but back to Vietnam.
One by one, police arrested nearly all of the Houston nomads. Tonight, they're still looking for the enforcer, known as Tony Playboy.
What is up, guys? Tyson DeLaCruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. I want to start from the beginning here, not 1989, not the shooting, 1980, because that is the year that absolutely matters here. Minh Duong Nguyen arrived in the United States from Vietnam in 1980. He was a child, and he came here with something a lot of people spend years trying to do, a powerful permanent resident status, which is called a green card, the legal right to live and work in America. Tony had that. The government gave it to him. He had every tool a person needs to build a real life in America. ICE Director Todd Lyons described exactly what happened, and I'm going to put this on the screen so I can read it word for word here. Nguyen came to the United States with a lawful permanent resident status in 1980, but he threw away his green card, choosing a life of gang violence and murdering 2 people on U.S. soil. By 1988, Nguyen had joined the Nomads, which is a Vietnamese street gang operating out of Houston known for home invasions and violent turf wars. According to the documents, he wasn't just a member, he was becoming a leader, and the official ICE press release says he began to see himself as the head of his own faction in 1988. And a turf war broke out. The official reason given here was territory, honor, and women between Houston fractions and rival gangs of Port Arthur.
In December, the war escalated. The battlefields were fool halls in Port Arthur and in Houston's Little Saigon. This round over a girlfriend reportedly stolen by a Port Arthur nomad.
This is a deep cut from those of you that are familiar with the show America's Most Wanted. He was enforcer. Tony Playboy was the enforcer, the right-hand man. On January 30th, 1989, mid-afternoon, Houston's Little Synagogue neighborhood. Givral's Sandwich Shop. It was a busy shopping day, regular people having lunch. The Port Arthur nomads were inside, a handful of them. The AMW, the America's Most Wanted broadcast that January 14th, the 1990 episode, described the meeting where the plan was made here. And I'm going to read the reenactment narration that ICE Houston included in their own social media post about that arrest. On January 30th, 1989, police say the Houston nomads decided to avenge the honor for the last time. The chosen killing ground was Givral's Sandwich Shop, Houston's Little Synagogue. Mid-afternoon, busy shopping day. Handful of Port Arthur nomads were inside. When it was over, 2 had been killed, 3 wounded, the entire community outraged. A&W was serious about this enough to set up a Vietnamese-speaking operator. They knew the community that had most of the information about Tony Playboy might be scared to call in America's Most Wanted, so they lowered the barrier and it worked. He was caught in Canada in a matter of weeks. Here's what the AMW broadcast from January 14, 1990 showed that night. Not just Tony Playboy's face, a map. The DHS posted that ICE Houston posted about this arrest, including all the original photos from the case, including a map from the original America's Most Wanted episode titled Tony Playboy Sightings. According to that map, reported sightings of him were spread across the entire East Coast from New Orleans to Charlotte, North Carolina, Falls Church, Virginia, Washington, D.C., Providence, Rhode Island, the suburbs of Boston, and a cluster near the New York area. The nomads were called nomads because they moved. It's a genius name, right? Obviously, you guys, with a name like nomads, they didn't stay in one city. And Tony Playboy had been moving around for years, and he made it all the way across the border to Canada. The AMW broadcast aired January 14th, 1990. And our good friend John Walsh knows how to publicize things, so tips started coming in, and the ICE official press release confirmed what happened next. Nguyen made it all the way up to Canada before he was captured later that month. In February 1990, he was transported from Toronto to Texas and taken to the Harris County Jail. A jury found him guilty of all charges after a few hours of deliberation. A few hours, you guys, of deliberation. The evidence obviously was crystal clear here, and he was on America's Most Wanted. In May of 1990, he was sentenced to 45 years in Texas Department of Corrections. Prosecutors had considered asking for the death penalty here.
They may be here one day, commit a robbery, burglary, auto theft, may be in New Orleans the next day, they may be in New York, Toronto. They just make the circuit around that way. If there's some place they want to hit and there's money involved, they'll go there. That's the reason why they're nomads.
Tony Playboy followed that exact path that America's Most Wanted was already tracking, all the way to Canada. And when his face hit the national televisions back in the 90s, the tips closed in from both sides of the border, United States and Canada. This is the piece of the story, you guys, that makes this 2026 arrest more impressive than the actual framing here. While Tony Playboy was sitting in a Texas prison in 1991, the same year his appeal was denied by the appellate court, immigration officials opened his deportation proceedings. He wasn't done with prison yet, haven't served a fraction of his time, but the government was already building a case for what was going to happen next. Then in 1998, the Board of Immigration Appeals finalized his removal order. Let me explain what that means simply for those of you that might not know. The Board of Immigration Appeals is the highest court in the immigration system. When they finalize an order, the order doesn't expire. It doesn't go away with administration changes or whatever happens. It doesn't disappear because new Congress comes in with different priorities. It sits on file. It's locked in. It waits. And it becomes executionable the moment that the conditions that were blocking it, his prison sentence, are removed. Immigration officials began his deportation proceedings in 1999, and by 1998, the Board of Immigration Appeals finalized his removal order. Nguyen spent over 3 decades behind bars. ICE Houston took custody of Nguyen April 16th upon his release from state prison, thanks to an honored immigration detainer. That is the key here, folks. He'll remain in ICE custody pending deportation. An honored immigration detainer, that again is the key phrase here. ICE filed a detainer with the Texas prison system. The detainer was just the official request. And when the person finishes their sentence, just call us before you open up the doors, hold them for a few hours, and we'll come pick them up. The prison honored that. ICE showed up. The 28-year-old removal order was executed on schedule here. There was no manhunt, no people looking in the street, no car chases, no tip line, no fugitive operations, a detainer that was filed in advance, honored on schedule. That's how the system is supposed to work when prisons cooperate with federal immigration enforcement. And on April 16, 2026, it worked exactly that way. Tony Playboy's arrest didn't happen in isolation. It was part of something a lot bigger. Between April 6th and April 17th, 2026, the same 2-week window, ICE Houston arrested 277 criminal illegal aliens. 277, you guys. Among them, 17 child PDFs, 6 murderers, 16 drug traffickers, 15 gang members. Those 277 people had committed a combined 751 criminal offenses and had entered the United States illegally a combined 654 times. Tony Playboy Min Dao Tong Nguyen was named number 2 on the official ICE report released April 22nd. The name above him on that list, a woman named Haiti Marcedo Rodriguez, 34 years old, MS-13 gang member from El Salvador. She had been convicted in her home country of 2 counts of aggravated homicide, aggravated extortion, and participation in a terrorist organization. She was sentenced to 228 years. That's a lot of years. That's a lot of years. She fled to the United States, and the Biden administration released her in 2024. ICE arrested her on April 9th. Tony Playboy was on April 16th. ICE Acting Field Office Director Paul McBride described the results of those 2 weeks, and I'm putting this exact statement on the screen here. Thanks to those relationships, we removed hundreds of dangerous criminal, illegal alien, child PDF, murderers, drug traffickers, gang members, and thieves from local communities, and in just 2 weeks, and prevented an untold number of U.S. citizens from becoming victims.
In all, your tips have now captured 91 fugitives.
91 captures from viewer tips before that single broadcast had even aired. America's Most Wanted worked because people called in. And ICE Houston's operation in April 2026 worked because one prison honored one detainer. 2 completely different errors, 2 completely different tools, same results. Accountability showed up here. America, the Tony Playboy story is not a complicated one when you lay it all out on the line. He arrived in 1980 with the green card and a legal right to be here. In 1988, he chose a gang. In 1989, he led a crew to a sandwich shop and 2 people didn't come home that day. In 1990, John Walsh put his face on television and viewers called it in. Canada handed him back. A Texas juror spent a few hours and sent him away for 45 years. And while he was in prison, his deportation order was being built and finalized. By 1998, it was done. Finito burrito, sitting on a file, just waiting for Tony Playboy to be released. The American Nomads gang network that Tony Playboy was part of, according to that same January 14th, 1990, America's Most Wanted broadcast, law enforcement believed that they were close to 1,000 nomad gangs operating across the United States at that particular time. More than 10,000 members total, moving between cities and crossing borders. Tony Playboy was one of the 10,000 of them. He happened to be one of the guys who got caught by America's Most Wanted, convicted by a Texas jury, and tracked by a removal order for 28 years. His green card, you guys, was a gift. He threw it in the garbage. And on April 16, 2026, when that prison door opened in Texas, ICE Houston was waiting on the other side with paperwork Bill Clinton's administration signed. He chose the Nomads. ICE chose them right back. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.